Don Francisco was a humble old farmer who had dedicated his entire life to the land. Everyone in the village knew and loved him for his kind heart. A widower, he lived in his small countryside home with his youngest son Diego, his daughter Reno Odalia, and his 10-year-old grandson Andres. At 75, despite his age, he still worked the fields, tended his animals, and went fishing whenever he could. His grandson, Andres, was the light of his life. He often took the boy with him to the fields, and the child loved following his grandfather, entertained by the simple wonders of the countryside. Diego, his son, would take the harvest to sell in the nearby town, always accompanied by his wife Odalia. They were a close-knit family, living a quiet, peaceful, and happy life. But one day, something unexpected happened because tragedies often strike when we least expect them, in the most ordinary of moments. One Sunday afternoon, Don Francisco took his grandson fishing. While the old man sat by the riverbank, Andres ran along the edge, looking for the perfect spot to cast his line. "Be careful, Andres," his grandfather warned, but the boy didn't listen. Then, the unthinkable happened. In his excitement to reach a fish, Andres tripped on a rock and fell into the water, striking his head hard as he went under. Without a second thought, Don Francisco threw himself into the river. He managed to pull his grandson out, but the child was unconscious. Panicked, the old man lifted the boy into his arms and ran home, shouting for help. When he arrived, Diego and Odalia tried desperately to revive their son, but the wound was grave. The town doctor examined the boy and confirmed their worst fears: his life was in danger. Despair, unlike any he had ever felt, gripped Don Francisco's chest. Guilt consumed him. "This is my fault," he cried. "I only looked away for a moment, and it all happened so fast. If something happens to him, I'll never forgive myself." Diego and Odalia tried to console him, but worry and fear had already taken hold of the entire household. That night, Don Francisco couldn't sleep. He sat by Andres' bedside, watching his grandson's shallow breathing, praying for any sign of improvement. The guilt ate away at him. He felt responsible for everything. The next morning, the humble farmer went to the little church in the neighboring village. He spent 2 hours there, begging God to save his grandson's life. But Andres showed no sign of recovery. Francisco spent his days sitting beside him, clinging to a hope that was slowly fading. Tears welled in his eyes, and deep in his heart, he felt the crushing certainty that the worst was yet to come. At dusk, filled with sorrow, he left the house without a word. He walked into the hills and sat beneath an old tree. "God, why won't you listen to me?" he thought, his eyes heavy with grief. The good farmer turned to his last hope, calling to the other side. "Forgive me for what I'm about to do, Lord," he whispered. "But if you've abandoned me this time, at least let me summon Death herself. Let her come before me now." But nothing happened. He shouted louder, "Death, come here." Still, the night remained silent. Only the endless stillness answered him. Resigned, Don Francisco turned to head home. He had only walked a few steps through the forest when suddenly a shadowy figure appeared on the path ahead. It was Death, standing right before his eyes. Francisco didn't flinch after all. He had called for her. "You're Death," he said firmly. "I want to make a deal with you. Save my grandson. He's just a child. He still has his whole life ahead of him. Let him live, please. I'll give you whatever you ask in return." The dark figure remained silent for a long time, studying him through the darkness. Finally, a voice echoed from within the shadows. "There is nothing to be done. By dawn, the boy's time will have come." Don Francisco fell to his knees and wept. "Take my soul, take my life, but please save my boy. I know you can do it." Death stepped closer, slow and deliberate. From her robes, she drew out an old piece of parchment. "Here's the deal," she said. "When you return home, you will read it carefully. You must keep your word. It is the only way. If you do not agree, tear up the paper and our pact will be void." The old man stared, confused, not fully understanding. Then Death continued, "You must tell no one of our agreement until the time comes. Tomorrow, at this same hour, I will return for what is mine." With those words, the dark figure vanished as swiftly as she had appeared. Don Francisco remained kneeling on the ground, more bewildered than relieved. When he arrived home, he unfolded the paper and read its contents, and his heart broke. "Only 24 hours more," he murmured. "If this is the only way, then so be it." Tears filled his eyes. That same night, something miraculous happened. Little Andres suddenly awoke, letting out a soft sigh. His breathing, once shallow and weak, began to steady. The family burst into tears of relief and gratitude. Diego and Odalia embraced, their hearts flooded with renewed hope. Their joy, however, would not last. The next day, Don Francisco decided to tell the truth. Sitting at the table, surrounded by his son and daughter-in-law, he took a deep breath. "There's something I must tell you," he began, unable to meet their eyes. "Something that weighs heavy on my soul. Last night, before Andres awoke, I spoke with Death." Diego and Odalia looked at him, stunned. "With Death," Diego repeated, frowning. "What do you mean, father?" Francisco closed his eyes. "I made a pact with her. She told me our little boy was meant to die last night. She only granted me 24 more hours with him. I'm so sorry." The couple sat in disbelief. "This can't be. Diego said, heartbroken. You mean, she only gave us one more day? Odalia asked, her voice trembling. Yes, Francisco nodded. So I want us to spend this day together as a family. Even if our hearts are heavy, we must fill Andres' last day with love and joy. Though grief weighed on them, the family gathered around the child. Andres, still weak but smiling, managed to get out of bed. He looked better than the night before. They spent the entire day together, sharing laughter and memories, cherishing every single moment. The air was thick with melancholy, yet their time was filled with genuine happiness. When night fell, the house grew silent. Francisco stepped onto the porch, leaving his son and daughter-in-law with the sleeping boy. The night air was cold, slicing through the silence like the world itself was holding its breath. Death appeared once more before the humble farmer. The time has come, she said. Don Francisco bowed his head, sorrow heavy in his chest. Just allow us to say goodbye. Slowly he walked back inside to the bedroom where his family sat beside Andres, now deeply asleep. It's time, the old man said softly, his voice breaking. Diego and Odalia clung to each other and wept uncontrollably. Meanwhile, Don Francisco lay down on an old couch nearby. His voice was calm now, almost peaceful. Don't cry, my children. Andres will be fine. You have nothing to fear. Just take care of him. Don't make the same mistake I made by the river that day. Never let him out of your sight. And tell him I love him very much. Father, what are you talking about? Diego asked, alarmed. But the good old man did not answer. He closed his eyes and passed away quietly. His pact with death was fulfilled. That night, Diego and Odalia wept, torn between the relief of their son's survival and the grief of losing their beloved patriarch. The next morning they found the old piece of parchment that death had given Francisco. When they read it, they finally understood everything. Don Francisco had given his life in exchange for his grandsons. Andres grew up to follow in his grandfather's footsteps, working the same land with the same strength and kindness that had defined Don Francisco's life. The family lived in peace and never forgot the old farmer's sacrifice. They honored his memory forever. Thank you for watching. If this story touched your heart, please like this video and subscribe to our channel for more content that makes you think and feel. We'll see you in the next one.